So this week, when I posted one of the weekly crime stories, there was a really interesting one about a man called Cedric Taylor, who in Memphis, Tennessee, has just been sentenced from an incident that occurred in February 12th, at the Holy City Church of God, where he pointed a gun at an individual after the church service. And he's just been sentenced. Believe he's been given probation, but it's a really interesting story, and we don't know everything about it. But I want to try and sort of reconstruct part of what happened, and then talk about it with you, and just share some lessons learned or some observations that I have. The first thing I want to do is share with you the video. So we're going to watch a video from the woman that had the gun pulled against her. So she went on to the news. They covered the story. We're going to start with that first. So let's watch that video.
Pastor at a Raleigh church has been sentenced after pointing a gun inside the sanctuary at a member. WRAG's Shay Arthur spoke with the victim.
It was a horrible, terrifying thing and very traumatizing at the same time.
Speaking to us today, Jamila Zarif tells us about the emotion she felt back in February when police say Cedric Taylor pointed a gun at her inside Holy City Church of God in Christ.
I never would have thought something like this would happen. But it's real heartbreaking and very emotional.
Zarif says she was a member of the church's congregation for 13 years. She left in 2019. She says there was never any bad blood with Taylor, who is the son of the church's bishop, and never had a fallout with the church, where she was a dedicated member.
It's just where I got saved and baptized at. And it just will be a part of my heart until the day I leave this side.
She says in February, she went with her mother, still a member, to celebrate the pastor having a 35th Founders Day service.
Just going to visit, to support him and still love on him at the same time.
She says following the service, she and her mother wanted to speak with the pastor, but says there was a misunderstanding with Taylor's wife about why they couldn't visit him.
Said walked up by that time and said, "What did you say? What did you say?" And I was like, by that time, I looked down, he had a gun.
She said he walked towards her with the gun pointed at her stomach for about 30 seconds.
I asked him, "Why do you have a gun?" Said, "Why do you have a gun?" I was holding my chest because I was so shocked. A lot of people started gathering, holding him back.
Tonight, while she remains shaken, she's thankful she wasn't physically hurt, but calls the situation sad. Disappointed with how she says the church handled everything, saying no one called to apologize about the incident.
Hopefully one day they'll call and, say, "Hey, Jamila, I love you, still love you," and even though what have went on.
Shay Arthur, WREG, News Channel 3.
Friday, Taylor was given a suspended 1-year sentence, 1 year of probation, and 1 year of anger management on an assault charge. We spoke with a woman who said she is a relative of Taylor. She told us no comment about the incident. We also left messages with the church, but so far have not heard back.
Okay, so the interesting thing here then really is that, so this happened in February of this year. We're now into the middle of June. The person has just been sentenced. We heard receiving community service, their probation, whatever it was. But what's really interesting, first off, is what the woman says consistently a couple of times is that no one from the church has reached out and apologized. And this is just an observation. I don't know if there's a right way or wrong way to do this, what you would do at your faith community, but it's clear to me when I read the news articles and listen to her speak, what she's really seeking is understanding. She's looking for someone to put their arm around her and say, "Hey, we're sorry for what happened." And what seems to have happened, and this is just from reading the news articles and following the video we just watched, the church haven't made any comment or any statement about it. So she's left feeling that she's a bit isolated. She wants the church to say, "We still love you, you're still welcomed." And the fact that the church haven't done that hasn't given her the closure that she needs. So really interesting. I think it is a bit of a sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If the church reaches out there can be more dialogue, there can be more challenge, there can be more questions. By not reaching out, people are sort of asking, well, what's your stance on this matter? Do you condone the behaviour? Where are you? So there's a lot in there, but it's interesting that she seems to want an apology and the church having given her one. So my first question to you would be, if this happened at your church, this type of incident, which side of the fence do you think you'd be on? Would your church reach out to her and issue an apology, bearing in mind this gentleman was charged, he's received probation for it? Or would you choose not to comment, believing that it might keep exasperating the situation and it won't go away? So a really interesting point there. The second thing that we heard in there was that she tried to approach the pastor following the service, and we know it was his 35-year anniversary of being at the church, but whatever that communication was caused some type of argument. I'm going to go to the news article here for a second. And what is interesting about the news article is that no one really talks about what started the argument. So if we sort of go here, it says that she was traumatized with being threatened by the gun. It says that the representative from the church has said that she had nothing to say about the assault charge against the pastor's son. So someone inside the church gave a comment. We know that she was visiting with her mother, and it was a church where she'd been baptized. She told us that. And the police statement cited by the news outlet said at the end of February that the family tried to speak with the pastor but were prevented from doing so, which triggered an argument. And it says Zarif said the argument was due to a misunderstanding with the Bishop Taylor's wife about why they couldn't visit him. So what we do know is that this anniversary was going on, some type of celebration. They tried to talk to him afterwards. Now, I'm old enough to know that there is always two sides to every story. But what is interesting to me is that the key piece is missing from this story here as to what was that conversation that caused a misunderstanding. The bishop's wife we saw there in the article seems to have been involved in some way, it says, that which triggered an argument. There was a misunderstanding. We don't know what that misunderstanding is, but we do know that the outcome was that the pastor's son pulled a gun and then pointed it at this female. So again, a really interesting piece, that the reason why this event took place hasn't really been reported on. But here's something that I do know, and I wrote this actually in my book behind me in my 10 Powerful Strategies for Conflict De-Escalation, is that there never has to be a winner or a loser when there's a disagreement. There doesn't have to be a winner or a loser when there's a misunderstanding. I fully accept that this gentleman, Cedric Taylor, pulled a firearm on this female, which seems to be way escalation from what we know of the story so far. However, the best way to diffuse an argument is to not be involved in the argument. So without really fully understanding what the cause was of this disagreement, the woman that we heard in the news article, did she have the option to walk away? Yes. Could she have said to her mother, this clearly isn't going the way that we wanted because we're here for the celebration, we're here to thank the pastor for his service, when it was clear that wasn't happening, and for whatever reason, both sides seemed to have been agitated, could they have had a conversation and said, you know what, let's just leave the church because it's a stressful day, there's so many things going on, we're going to leave? Yes, they could, by staying there. And again, I'm not condoning what the gentleman did by pulling a gun on her, because on what we know, that seems to be way to the extreme. However, they did have an opportunity prior to that just to walk away when there was some type of communication breakdown. So there's a lot within this story that we don't understand. We do know that there was some type of miscommunication. We do know that a firearm was pulled. And we know that this woman later reported it to the police, and the gentleman was on probation. And another key piece about the story is that the females, they actually left the church before the police arrived. So there's a lot to this that we don't know, but I posted about this in the crime trends this week. There was some few questions and conversations about it. It's a really interesting case. And one thing which is pretty clear is, with the pastor's son to escalate to that point, was he or is he suffering from mental illness? Was this his first interaction with these females? What is his previous offending pattern like? Does he have a previous offending pattern? There's a lot of questions that we don't know that people inside the church might answer. So these two women could have been walking into a very volatile situation at the point when they say there was this miscommunication that caused an argument about why they couldn't talk to the pastor. So I'm going to share a link to the news article. I would love to get your views and opinions when you read it. What do you feel is missing from the story? Obviously, I've mentioned to you, everyone talks about this miscommunication, about talking to the pastor. There was clearly more to it than that, but no one's really spoken about it. So I'd love to get your views on the miscommunication. I'd love to get your views on, should the woman have just walked away, or should she have stayed there talking to this person? And then finally, my question is, the church haven't spoken about this event, and it seems to me that all this female really wants is an apology. All she really wants is the opportunity to discuss this case. And perhaps her going on the news could have been avoided if the church did this. And like I said, I'm not too sure if there's a right way or a wrong way. It depends on what your church's view is, but I would love to understand from you, what would your church do in that situation? Would you remain quiet, or would you sort of lean into the allegation and discuss it? So post your comments below. I will share the news article, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody.